Hello guys, welcome to my channel. I hope everything's okay in your life. In this video you will find an updated version of series I prepared in the previous years. You're in luck for listening to the explanation because I felt the need to quickly discuss the content of the video. Each video will feature an interview with a class master about either the Succession or Awakening versions of a class. All videos, including the older ones, will be available in the playlist you see on the screen. You can find the link of the playlist in the pinned comment section. The purpose of this video series is to help you understand the basic role of the class within the game. I must clarify that it is not a deeply detailed guide. You will watch an interview in a conversational style aimed at answering the fundamental questions of those interested in playing a class. The class masters featured are experienced players who have dedicated thousands of hours to their class and to the Black Desert Online. You may recognize some and not the others, but unfamiliarity does not make them bad players. All the class masters mentioned have proven themselves in Black Desert Online world. Please be respectful when sharing your thoughts. Enjoy watching. Hello guys, welcome. Today's guest is BlueSquadron. You already know him. Welcome Blue, how are you?
I'm doing great. Nice in the middle of the day for me, but we went to bed at like really early in the morning for the global lab patch. So always working, but very excited to be here for this time.
By the way, thank you so much for accepting this interview. Let's start this interview and we will talk about Awakening Witch mostly. May you please introduce yourself? Who is BlueSquadron? Where are you from? Which server are you playing at?
Yeah, so I've been playing the game for 7 or 8 years now, since Steam release, although I don't have the game on Steam, ironically enough. I've been, I've started playing with Awakening Dark Knights, but quickly transitioned over to Awakening Witch a few years into the game when I started shotcalling, and I've been basically playing Awakening Witch ever since, although I tag other classes all the time. I've been playing a lot of Awakening Witch. I have dabbled a lot with Succession as well, but I typically play Awakening because it's the best class in the game for shot calling for large scale PvP. It's also excessively good for PvE, so I just really enjoy that. But yeah, I've been playing the game for a long time. I started being a content creator for Black Desert about 2.5 years ago, probably now. Never really looked back. I had a good time with it. Been the best ride of my life. So looking forward to the future here.
Thank you. So, specific question, how did you find out that BDO and what specifically caught your interest to stay in BDO?
Ironically enough, I used to play League of Legends as my main game. Yeah, I know. Mental illness. But I had like a competitive flex team I played with. That competitive flex team wanted a group bonding game. So BDO had just come out on Steam and they were like, it's an MMO. We can all play this together. Little did we know it's basically a solo player MMO at the time, but you know, it is what it is. Me and the AD carry at the time, his name was Note, started playing the game a lot and actually started playing BDO a lot more than we were playing League. The funny thing is, if you fast forward 7 years, Note's now my editor for YouTube. And, you know, we lived happily ever after. We're still playing. He's quit a few times, but, you know, he's still playing the game now again. But yeah, no, it's just everything that keeps me playing the game are my friends. I think that the reason that most people play the game is you have a good community to play the game with. You know, if you make friends and you have a good guild, you have a good community, you really just never stop playing regardless of whether or not you love or hate the game.
Thank you. So, have you ever taken a break from playing video? If so, what motivated you to come back?
Yeah, I took a very brief break when I first started. Note and I played for about 5-ish months. I would say like 4 or 5 months or so. And then we had a falling out and like all of our friends stopped talking to each other for a little while. And we stopped for like 2 or 3 months. And I came back because like kind of secretly, because low key, I was like, if I start now and then everybody else comes back, because we were already making peace by then. But like, if I start now, I can get in front of everyone else. So I came back before them and just started playing again like super consistently and then just never left. So I have legitimately not quit the game for more than 2 or 3 months since that first break. I've logged in very consistently just about almost every day, or at least every week, I guess. So like I suppose there's some weeks where like I have to go out of town for work or whatnot, but like played the game very consistently with absolutely no breaks for like the last like 7 or 8 years, except for the one that I talked about there.
Thank you. How long have you been playing the class you're currently playing? Have you tried any other classes?
Yeah, so I've been playing Awakening Witch about 3.5 or so years now. Maybe 4 years, I guess now. Maybe 5. Gosh, no, I think it's 4 years. But ironically enough, I still have more time played on my Dark Knight because back when you started BDO, like, you know, I did everything on the same class. So, like, I still have more playtime on the DK, but the Witch passed the DK in skill points. So the Witch has like 3,200 skill points now, and she's like almost level 66. So, like, kind of pushing hard at this point. But let's see, I played Dark Knight for 3.5 years when I started, transitioned over to when I started shot calling. That's when I started playing other classes because, oh, well, DK is just not the best shot calling class. So I tried Awakening Valkyrie. I was trained by Amu, if people remember that name, on Awakening Valkyrie for about 6 or so months. Got pretty good at that. Got a lot of class knowledge there, but eventually it just wasn't for me. It's just a lot of work. I have tried a number of other classes like Scholar and Megu and things like this, but honestly, the Witch has been my main since I rolled away from the Dark Knight, and I never really looked back after I picked the Witch.
Thank you. So what sets the class you play apart from the other classes? What is the special point of Awakening Witch?
Like I said, it's the best shot calling class in the game. Oh, I did play, I've played a lot of Mystic too, but I guess I've played a lot of classes, so honestly I've dabbled in a lot of classes. But Awakening Witch is probably the best shot calling class in the game. It's Awakening Caster in general, but Awakening Witch particularly is very good because its abilities don't actually block your ability to see everybody else's ability like Awakening Wizards does. She also has range, so she doesn't have to dive in if you don't need her to. But the big selling point for Awakening Witch is the fact that she's an amazing shot calling class. So that, and the fact that she's really solid in PvE, and she has been for quite some time. She is the safest class in the game, pretty uncontestedly in PvE. So like, if you don't want to die, she is definitely the go-to class. She's also really low APM overall as well, and she's really easy to learn. So like you can almost play her with one hand. It's great for that as well. So she's really new player friendly. And like, if you're like, we've all had those days where like you're super stressed out, you just don't want to have to like exert a crazy amount of effort to grind, and Witch just doesn't require you to exert a lot of effort. You have low chance of dying, which means that like, you know, all of that frustration of losing your crystals and stuff, it just doesn't happen very often. And like I said, she's super useful for large scale PvP, especially in the shot calling standpoint. So yeah, just an amazing class choice for me.
Okay. I mean, you already answered this question 8, and now I'm starting from 6 again. Is your class evasion or damage reduction, or both playable, and why?
I would say that Awakening Witch is definitely, it's played better with evasion, but you can play it with damage reduction. You really can't mess this up. Just don't build hybrid. If you build DR, that's totally fine. Succession Witch is actually better with DR in most cases, even though she has a couple evasion, she has 1 or 2 evasion passives. Succession Witch is typically considered better with DR. So if you like switching between the two, you can absolutely absolutely build Awakening with a DR spec. Have her with an evasion build, because as I said before, I'm a shot caller, so having an evasion build is important because I have to wear a DP set a lot, and the DP set in BDO has to be built with evasion. So like you just stack more evasion in that set, so you have to build evasion. But Awakening caster in general, whether it be Awakening Witch or Awakening Wizard, should be built with evasion, just because you just feel a little bit tankier as like a battle mage in this case. I don't think I gave you that on a scale of 1 to 10. How would I rate its difficulty? Say Awakening Witch is probably a 3. It's not as easy as a Lawn. Like a Succession Lawn is going to be really easy, but like it is definitely one of the easiest classes in the game, no question, to pick up and play. It's just really nice.
Thank you. What is your current gear score? Do you rush your gear progress, or you just take it as a type of guy?
I take it really easy. I'm only 731 gear score. I know it's only 731, but like I also have a full life skilling set too, and then I have a massive like boat presence. Like I'm typically like top 5 bartering or on basically every server in North America. But like, so I basically just do whatever I want. I don't really like size gear progress. I really like getting my T10s. I really like my life skilling. So like, I have hundreds of billions invested into life skilling equipment and stuff. I've only kind of started like actually grinding for like my Debo neck again. Like I say, I did it, gosh, about a year ago and got burned out. So I stopped and went and made a huge life skilling set. So now I'm back again, grinding for the Debo set again as the ring comes out on this most recent patch here. But like, yeah, I mean, I'm only 731 gear score, but I have a full DP set as well. And like I said, I have a life skilling set too. So like the gear just kind of comes to me when I get it when I get it. Like since I play very consistently and I basically never quit the game, I don't really have to worry about it. I'm typically always a relatively geared player, and the gear just kind of comes with time.
I get it. I mean, if you would have just spent so much money on life skill and also for your DP set, we could call you hardcap gear right now because so much money you invested in.
If I sold all of my, I've done the math. If I sold all of my life skilling set and my DP set and all that, I would have probably like 650 billion silver. I think that's probably most of my debos and stuff. And then like it also represents a tremendous amount of time because I had to make it all. So like, yeah, I'd probably have all my debos done. I'd probably have most of like the accuracy accessories done as well, but I don't know, I like to have the option to do whatever I want in the game since it is a sandbox.
Thank you. You already answered the question 8. You said that class is pretty newbie friendly, it's not that hard, and now we go dive in. Question 9. We are curious about your thoughts on the PvE situation of the class you're playing. Could you provide us with a detailed information separately for early, mid, and end game? How is Awakening Witch?
Yeah, so Awakening Witch, if you know what you're doing, is really good at basically every aspect of PvE. It's the safest class in the game, like hands down in PvE. That includes Awakening Wizard. Most people, when you ask, should I play Awakening Witch or Awakening Wizard on the current patch, people are going to tell you Awakening Wizard because it's technically stronger in PvE. And although that's true, it's definitely not as safe as Witch is. And again, you're just not going to die as frequently. In the early game, I'll break them down one at a time. In the early game, Awakening Witch is really good at Miramuck Ruins. That's basically where you should be going because she struggles a lot with mobility, as I'm sure we're going to talk about in the next few questions here. One of the things the class struggles with the most is mobility and C-swapping. If you have to go back to pre-awakening, it's kind of a hassle. It's kind of a pain in the ass. If you stand at any spot where you don't have to worry about mobility very often, like Miramuck Ruins, Pillars, Stars End Pillars, Yazarin Highlands, any spot where you can just kind of stand there and let the mobs come to you is going to be your place to grind, right? Whereas everybody else is grinding at Centaurs or Gahas or Desert Nagas and Desert Fogans. Miramuck Ruins is generally where you want to go, or Underground Glyphon is really, really good too because you don't have to worry about the mobility as much. So she's really good in the early game as long as you're grinding a spot that doesn't require that mobility. If you're going to a spot that requires mobility, though, she's going to be really bad. She'll be in the bottom tier of classes. In mid-tier grinding, there's not very many spots that actually allow you to kind of just sit and grind in one spot, but like assuming you can find one of these locations, you'll be doing okay. She's just like at Orcs, she just doesn't do super great because she just can't keep up with something like Awakening Nova or even Succession Witch, or even Awakening Wizard, which has Hellfire to help him get pack to pack. I would say she does much better in the mid game at Underwater Sakraya is probably her go-to grind spot because she's just got a massive amount of AoE, but again, Awakening Wizard's going to kind of outcompete her a little bit. So she definitely slumps a little bit in the mid game, and then end game grinding, she picks it back up. Because again, she's the safest grinder in the game. So when you talk about end game grinding, you're gonna die, or you're gonna be close to dying. It doesn't matter how much gear you have. You could have full pen Fallen God and still get one shot at some of these end game spots. So like playing a class like Awakening Witch basically means that your chance of dying is minimized, which in my opinion increases your overall silver per hour. It increases your utility on your class just because you have to worry about less overall, because she's very frontal guard heavy. So and she's really efficient in end game grinding. I'd say she's an A tier grinder. She probably sits around maybe a little under Succession Megu, somewhere in there, and that's pretty good. I would say she's definitely an A tier grinder, well above average, but not in the S tier with like Awakening Nova or Succession Witch.
Thank you. So let's talk about PvP. We are curious about your thoughts on the PvP situation of Awakening Witch. Could you provide us with detailed information separately for 1v1, 1vx, AOS 5v5, Guild League, Node, Siege, and War of the Roses?
Yeah, so Awakening Witch is in a bit of a tough spot right now. The way that I phrase it for people that ask me on stream, they're like, should I pick Awakening Witch or Awakening Wizard? And I say, well, really, it's your choice. If you want to do 1v1 PvP, it's Awakening Wizard. If you want to do PvE, it's Awakening Wizard. But if you want to do 3v3, it's actually Awakening Wizard. And then large scale PvP is actually Awakening Wizard as well. But it's your choice as to which one you'd like to do more. Like, honestly, Awakening Witch is not in a very good spot right now. Like I said, Awakening Wizard is stronger in PvE, but like when you specifically look over at PvP in 1v1s, she doesn't have a grab. She's got the lowest mobility in the game outside of maybe Shy, but she's not as tanky as a Shy is. So in a 1v1, believe it or not, she actually loses to Shy because she doesn't have the damage to kill Shy, and Shy can just break your armor and eventually kill you. So like probably the worst 1v1 class in the game, either next to Shy or sitting behind Shy. Like it's really bad because again, she doesn't have the mobility and she doesn't have a grab. And when you talk about 3v3 PvP and AOS, she's really bad. She just doesn't have the damage at close range, and again, her mobility suffers tremendously. When you talk about small scale PvP, things like Guild League, Cap Guild League 10v10 in an open world like this, again, doesn't have the mobility that the other classes in the game have. The C swap is a serious problem. Doesn't have the damage that Succession has. Doesn't like it does have a decent amount of range, but Succession just has way more damage. She's definitely in the bottom tier there. And then if you look over at large scale PvP, very sadly, yeah, she's got all the utility in the world, which I guess makes her better than a few classes in the game like Succession Striker and things like this. But at the end of the day, like I said, it's just the class is struggling in PvP for sure at the moment. Not to deter people like tremendously, but for group grinding, it's great. For PvE, it's great. But for large scale PvP, unless you're the shot caller, probably going to be better off with Succession or playing Wizard, sadly, on the current patch. So I think there's a couple changes that would probably bring her back into a very relevant state, but she's definitely suffering in PvP right now.
Thank you. I want to add this one. You just compare the Awakening Witch with Awakening Wizard. If someone who knows that what is Wizard and what is Witch, I just want to add this. Awakening Wizard and Awakening Witch, they kind of similar with the skill kit and the mechanics. They mostly similar. And one of them is a little bit aggressive and the other one is a little bit defensive. Witch is defensive, Wizard is a little bit aggressive stat-wise and the skill-wise. Like engage and disengage. Like when you check the Awakening Witch is just, as he said, like it's just she offers you tons of front guard and good defensive abilities. That's the difference if someone actually wanted that.
Yeah, exactly what he said. But basically, Awakening Witch and Awakening Wizard are going to be the battle mages of Black Desert. The difference between the two, as he said, Awakening Wizard, more upfront damage and a little bit more mobility up close. So, like, definitely a little bit more potent at close range and comes with a grab. Awakening Witch trades away some of that damage and some of that mobility for more range potential and more frontal guard. So, as Awakening Wizard is more super armor heavy, Awakening Witch is frontal guard, which again helps with ranged pressure. So like the idea is that you poke them a little bit with range and then you double TP in and you finish the job with Voltaic and Thunderstorm and like your up close battle mage skills.
So is there a significant strong aspect or weakest thing? What is the strongest thing for you and what is the weakest thing in which?
Strongest thing, the strongest aspect for her for PvP is the fact that she has, well, some of the biggest support capabilities in the game. her class buff actually shares with her allies. So like Awakening Witch and Awakening Wizard, as we just talked about, are very similar. When they class buff, they actually share that class buff with their allies. Awakening Witch shares the defensive stats with her nearby allies, and Awakening Wizard shares the offensive stats with their nearby allies. The class buffs are identical. But yeah, I mean, like you also have speed spell, you've got protected area, you've got heals coming out your booty, which is amazing. So like the best part about PvP is you've always got, you know, that healing support mechanic there. It feels really good. Say that as like if you want to play it with a DP set, it's one of the best classes with a DP set in the game because you're very resilient with all your heals and stuff. Like I said, you have all of your support mechanics and stuff. So playing with a DP set is really good. For Awakening Witch, all of her support mechanics make her really nice for PvP because it just feels good to be able to support people and have their experience playing the game improve because you did something correctly. In PvE, like I said, the most redeeming quality is that she's really easy, man. Like she's super simple. And then she also is, like I said, the safest class in the game for PvE. She relies on a lot of frontal guards. She's got a really consistent PvE iframe. She's got a red orb, which basically means at most grind zones, you put the red orb down, and it's a taunt orb so that the mobs will hit the red orb instead of attacking you. Really nice. Again, it's just tough to die with her, and so very, very convenient class in this way.
So, are there any classes that clearly dominate the class you're playing? In other words, the counter matchup.
Yeah, it's probably easier to list. If we're talking about 1v1s, like I said, Awakening Witch is the worst 1v1 class in the game. People would say that Shy is worse, and the simple fact of the matter is the Shy can just put on a DP set and never die. And then eventually your gear is going to break and you're going to die because you don't have the damage to kill her. So it's definitely the worst 1v1 class in the game. It lacks all, like if you're going to do 1v1 Awakening Witch, it's going to be a little tough. You're better off just swapping servers. You're basically going to be sitting on a casting couch for most classes, especially if they have a grab. You're basically swapping servers. So there's not much to do there. I do go over 1v1 matchups in my Awakening Witch guide, but at the end of the day, most of it revolves around trying to keep your distance, fish for a CC from range, and then trying to TP in close, get your damage down very quickly. So like you hit them with detonated flow from range, which is your forward F, and then you TP in, you voltaic thunderstorm, maybe you follow up with a quick fisher wave to get the re-CC, and then you do your best to try to put down as much damage as you can before they stand back up. But the problem is your skills cast kind of slowly, so it's difficult to kind of get that damage down in one combo unless you have a lot of gear on your opponent. But yeah, 1v1's definitely a little rough, definitely not a 1v1 class.
I mean, I would love to see this one. Awakening Witch mostly is very hard to catch people, very bad CC, catches, it's obvious. I mean, whenever she catches someone, at least give her a little bit PvP damage so she can, punish. Yeah. I mean, HP pool is just getting bigger and bigger, but her damage is not scaling up according to that HP pool. That's what I feel when I encounter with Witch.
Yes. You can't, like, if you've ever tried to counter or like a combo, a Berserker of any kind, Succession or Awakening, particularly Succession Berserker, the health pool is so big that you actually can't even get them below half health in most cases. If I were to try to, if a full, like max geared, pen Fallen God, pen everything, Awakening Witch were to try to combo choice, you would not be able to combo him 100 to 0. It doesn't really matter how much gear you have on. You just can't get through that health pool. It just doesn't work. Like you said, it just doesn't scale very well. And I think that has a lot to do with, Best has always struggled with trying to do pet damage in BDO. Most classes that have pet know this, but pet damage is kind of wonky. No, Awakening Witch's damage just does not scale very well. Early game and mid game, yeah, okay, you're doing solid damage, but as you move into the late game, it just keeps getting worse and worse. And now we're in a situation where I probably can't get someone below half health if they match my gear score.
Yeah. So let's talk about the mechanics and the skills. Is there a mechanics or skills in your class that you would like to be buffed or nerfed?
Yeah, I think that the class would be helped tremendously. Now that, like, honestly, when the class came out, the biggest thing was like, oh yeah, I can't have split teleport because that would be too much mobility. The class needs to suffer from mobility. Otherwise, it just wouldn't be possible to beat it. And everybody talked about how the only counter to Awakening Witch was grabbing. Now the counter to Awakening Witch is literally everything. It's just add to the fire. It's absolutely obnoxious. So one of the biggest things is we need to improve the class's mobility. We're talking about dealing with classes like Awakening Draconia, like dealing with classes like even Awakening Wizard has way more mobility than Witch does with his Hellfire and stuff that's off cooldown all the time. Like just a couple more basic dashes, but honestly, just a split teleport would be tremendously helpful for Awakening Witch. Split teleport is like the big thing that I think, honestly, both versions of Awakening caster should have. I think that Awakening Wizard should probably get it too. I think Awakening Awakening Witch should also receive a couple other buffs. The problem is every single time they buff Awakening Witch, they always buff Awakening Wizard. So Awakening Wizard very consistently stays better than Awakening Witch. It has been this way for a very long time. They literally just cannot buff one without buffing the other one for some obscure reason. And so it's pretty much always going to be Awakening Wizard coming out on top. It's a lot like Ninja and Kuno. If Ninja gets one thing, Kuno can only get a tenth of it on her side of it. So like Ninja is always just going to be the better class in general. I'm not sure why this is, but like I think that split teleport would help the class tremendously. The other thing that Awakening Witch struggles with, as I said before, is C-swapping from pre-awakening back to awakening form, or even awakening to pre-awakening, is extremely burdensome on Awakening Witch. Other classes in the game, oh, you flow straight through. You know what I mean? You wouldn't even notice that you moved back and forth between the two specs, whether it be awakening or awakening. Like Mystic flows very smoothly, even though it's an older class. You look at Megu, you look at Wusa, like all of these different classes like flow super well. Awakening Witch is extremely clunky. It's very difficult. You're unprotected when you swap. It's very frustrating. You really don't want to do it. And the developer's decision for this was to, oh, well, we'll just make it so that you don't have to go to pre-awakening. Well, I would rather the class function more like Scholar does, if I'm being honest. Like you're staying in awakening pretty much all the time now. And then if you ever have to go to pre-awakening again, you run into all of these problems. None of your pre-awakening skills give you any sort of damage reduction at all on your super armors. So you go in, you end up blowing your Voltaic, your Thunderstorm, you end up trying to get another super armor, so you cast Frigid Fog or the new Magnus skill, and you end up getting one shot because there's no DR on those skills. You end up just dying in your super armor immediately to any skill in the game. In terms of damage, it's kind of miserable. So being able to swap back and forth between forms consistently and comfortably is extremely important, and the class needs a lot more mobility. Like, we're in a day and age where every other class has more mobility, every other class has a grab, every other class can just beat Awakening Witch at everything. It's time to start giving her a little bit of mobility.
Thank you. Can we get a brief summary of good and bad things of your class? Let's say that I want to reroll to Awakening Witch. What should I expect from Awakening Witch?
Yeah, I mean, like, if you love being a bottom, it's a great class. If you're in PvE, it's a phenomenal class. You're not going to have any complaints. A lot of people tag it for PvE because, again, you're probably not going to die. If you're trying new grind zones, you won't be very scared. You can kind of just run around and try whatever grind zones you want, or grind wherever you want, Cyclops, whatever, because, again, you play the best class in the game for this kind of thing. Yeah, maybe it's not like the top 5 most efficient classes, but I'd say it's definitely in the top 10 most efficient classes in PvE. It's really low APM, so you can watch The Office or whatever you want to watch while you're playing it. And like I said, it's super, super safe, and it's really easy to pick up and play. So you don't really have to worry too much about comboing or anything like that. It's just really, really simple. From a PvE standpoint, it's great. From a PvP standpoint, yeah, you're going to struggle. But as you get closer and closer to large scale PvP, there is potential for you to succeed on the class in large scale PvP if you're really good at positioning and you understand how to abuse your range correctly. You definitely, I've seen some Awakening Witch's top frag before. It's extremely difficult, but it's doable. The class is a tremendous amount of fun, plus she has some really nice outfits, respectfully speaking.
Okay, let's dive into BDO itself. Before we dive in, I want to just remember to all viewers, Jay said everything will be fine, okay? So let's go. What are your thoughts on BDO's current situation from past until now?
Oh, wow. So when I started the game, I was just, it's very different. Like, I probably have a dramatically different view than probably mostly any other viewer, because I started as like a normal player. I started as like a normal Twitch viewer and everything, just kind of plunking through the game, didn't PvP for the first 2 years, but like kind of kept track of the scene, was always on Reddit, kind of involved, but like always very quiet. And now, you know, I'm a content creator, like, and I do YouTube and I do Twitch, and I'm very involved with the community. So like I talk with Pearl Abyss on a regular basis. We collaborate on things. I've met Jay in person. I'll meet him again at the Heidel Ball in France in about a month and a half or so. I think the company does exceptionally well. They definitely make a lot of mistakes, but I've made a lot of games in my gaming career, and I will say that I would never have hitched my wagon to a company that I felt was dead in the water or was misperforming most of the time. Do they misplay? Absolutely. There are times when it feels like if you play the game in the West, keep in mind by the West, I mean America, North America, EU, etc. That's generally the West, as we call it. If you play the game in the West, you probably aren't going to feel like you're very listened to, although this has been a little bit more resolved the last few months. It's been a little bit better for sure, probably because we spoke with our wallets. We spent less on the game based on their quarterly earnings report that came out about a week ago, or a week or two ago. Yeah, we've definitely spent a significant amount less on the game, but they've started listening to us, and I think that their profits will start to pick back up again. I think the game is, in general, it's in a really really good spot. It constantly keeps improving. The quality of life changes make it easier for new players to pick up and play the game successfully while maintaining a high enough skill ceiling that it keeps the game intriguing and the world kind of vast for like a newer player to go out and explore. I will say that on our very current patch, like as of the making of this interview, yeah, we're in a bit of a lull right now because we're between node war changes. We're not quite at the Heidel ball yet. Yes, the Debo ring came out, but like, yeah, okay, whatever. The biggest change we've gotten recently is like the global life skilling change, which is really cool, and the Jay's Hammer of Precision, which is also really cool. But like the game's kind of in a lull right now, and you can tell because viewership is kind of down across the board right now, but I expect it to pick up pretty dramatically here in the next month. Overall, I think the game's in a really good spot, and I think it continues to trend in the correct direction, especially for a game as old as Black Desert is. I think that the fact that we get patches literally every week is pretty unprecedented for a company to do, because again, I've made a lot of games. You don't normally, games that are, 8 to 10 years old like this are in maintenance mode. Like the developers don't really like update things, but BDO receives extremely consistent updates every single week. There's new events, there's new updates, there's new fun things going on with the game. So like, I think it's something that a lot of people take for granted. And I think that like not having to pay for expansions is another big thing that I very, very much so enjoy about the game. Because again, it helps people kind of get involved with it. So,
Thank you. You already talked about PA, and I'll just pass that part, but there's a special question for you. If you were in charge, let's say that you are a new Mr. J, what would you like to add and remove? One thing to add, one thing to remove. Please take your time to answer this one.
I think the most important thing to add is large scale PvE or just group PvE that is like raids, kind of like Destiny 2. I'd like more dungeons. I'd like raids. I'd like large scale, like cooperative PvE would be really, really cool. That is actually engaging and requires you to like do mechanics and stuff with your guild, like spawning in with a fort and like trying to defend it, or like go out on the map and like take certain outposts away from PvE mobs, or like kill those things, and like collaborating with other guilds would be pretty cool. Or even just doing raids like traditional MMOs would also be extremely important. I think that's the biggest thing that the game is missing right now. I think if you're looking over at PvP, I think that they've basically destroyed open world PvP. At this point, you need to just remove it and make a system that actually works. Right now, we're in a dysfunctional system that was originally created in 2016, and like now we've taken away one-sided decks. We've taken away, and now we have like the 10v10 guild league. Like karma system has been severely nerfed, and then all this other stuff. I think you just need to basically just wipe open world PvP, remove open world flagging, and then put in a new system, whether it be the new world system where like you have to flag before you leave town, and if you flag before you leave town, you get like a 50% drop rate buff, but you can be PvP'd by everybody. And if you don't flag before you leave town, you don't get the drop rate buff, but you can't be PvP'd by anyone unless there's a GVG. Right? If you have a standing deck, you can be PvP'd regardless. But like that kind of a system would work really well. There's a number of other systems that I think have been suggested would work really well as well. But like the current system, I think for open world PvP is just kind of a disaster and needs to be rethought overall. I think the node war system we're excited about, but we're not really sure yet about that. But the most important thing the game needs is large scale PvE content, no question, hands down.
Thank you. So what advice would you like to give the newbies, returnees, and the other players in the game?
The most important thing for a newbie is that you pick the correct class. So like, I know this is like a self plug, but like you need to watch my choose your class guides. The reason I made those guides, it's a guide for like every class in the game. The reason I made those guides, they're like 2 or 3 minutes, and it gives you a very brief rundown. It shows you what succession looks like, shows you what awakening looks like, tells you what APM you're looking at, skill ceiling, skill floor, how tough it is to get into the class, etc. Basically all like the basic stuff you're going to need to know for a new player and what the theme is and stuff. The reason I did that is because I noticed that like other people have done choose your class guides and everything, but like a big reason people quit is they can't find the class that they want to play in BDO when they start playing the game. And that is like literally one of the most important decisions that you're going to make, and making the correct decision helps you enjoy the game way more at a base level. So you need to watch the choose your class guides and just pick the one that you feel like looks the coolest, that you feel like you want to get on board with. So like you can watch those guides or whoever's guides you need to, but make sure you pick a class that you're really going to enjoy, not because it's good, not because it's meta, because by the time you have the gear score to be relevant in the meta game, your class is going to be garbage, and then there's going to be a new class that you'll be wishing that you're playing. So don't be meta chasing like that. It changes patch to patch. And just enjoy the game. Just kind of float through the game, and people recommend, which is like the main story, and then just do what you want to do. Play the game your way. A lot of people are going to tell you to play the game. Oh, you got to do this. Oh, you got to do that. No, you don't have to do anything that you don't want to do. Don't listen to idiots. It is what it is. As far as returning players or veteran players playing the game, the reason that you end up quitting BDO is usually because you feel burned out, or because you just you're like, oh, it's just the same thing every day. You're playing a sandbox MMO. The only reason you feel like it's the same thing, or that you're getting burned out, is because you feel like you have to be doing this thing, or you're not being efficient. You need to let go of the idea of being efficient with your time necessarily. And you need to hang on to how much fun you're having with the game. At your base core level, if you're having fun playing the game and you're playing the game actively, you will make silver. Yeah, sure, you might be making less silver than if you were grinding. If you're hunting, bartering, horse trading, even if you're trading, fishing, like, it doesn't matter. Just like pick something that you really enjoy and go do that. And then, like, if you're doing it, you will progress. And I guarantee you'll do that thing for more hours and you'll make more money than if you were doing something that you didn't want to do. So like, it goes the same thing for the class. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, what class do I need to play for efficient PvE grinding? Like, no, you should play the class that you're having fun in PvE with. You know what I mean? Like the class that you're like, yeah, man, when that whip, when she snaps above her head, when she does Fisher Wave, I don't know, it just does something to you. You're like, I think that's really cool. Or when the Nova's Excel mode goes off, I just get like that rush of cocaine that I feel so much. Like, yeah, whatever it is, whatever you're having fun with, that's the class that you need to play, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what's efficient. If you can play, if you're having fun, you will play that class more frequently and for more often than you would a class that you don't want to play, even if it is more efficient. So you end up grinding for more hours. You grind for more hours, you're going to make more money. You make more money, like you end up progressing faster on a class that, let's be honest, is not very efficient, even if it is ninja. You know what I mean?
Thank you. We are reaching the end of the interview. Is there anything else you would like to add before we finish?
I think we pretty much covered everything. I don't mean to deter people from playing Awakening Witch. I think it's a great class, especially in PvE. I think that a couple adjustments for its mobility and a little bit more damage would help the class tremendously, or even just to help it stand out as far as like a battle mage support class. Like if they wanted to add more support mechanics, would help Awakening Witch tremendously in PvP, and she'd be in a better spot PvP wise. Sadly, on current patch, yeah, she suffers in PvP, but I don't really care about that too much. Again, it's like I play her in PvP. I play her in large scale, guild league, all kinds of stuff, because like I just don't care. I think that, you know, if you really enjoy a class, you'll just play it regardless, and you'll have a good time with it. So just make sure you have a good time with the game, and you know, the adventure never stops, as they say.
All right, guys, now you can see all the social links belong to Blue. Go check his Twitch, go check his YouTube. He's just content creation. He's just the bomber of our server, like the entire BDO community. People love him. Do not forget to just visit and check him. Probably you know who is BlueSquadron, but I want to thank you.
Oh, no, thanks for having me on. I appreciate you coming and respecting my opinion for this. It means a lot to me, yeah, to be able to speak on Awakening Witch like this.
Thank you so much. All right, guys, do not forget, BDO is just a game. Have a nice game.